Welcome back students. Today we are going to start discussing a new unit and that is knowledge representation using rules. So what we are going to discuss today is procedural versus declarative knowledge, logic programming, forward versus backward reasoning, matching and control knowledge. Now this unit contains mostly theory and most of the things are what we have discussed in our lab turns or while we had been discussing knowledge representation, and hence we are going to discuss this using PPT today. Okay, so let us move ahead and discuss more. So first of all, we are going to discuss procedural knowledge versus declarative knowledge. So what is a procedural knowledge and what is declarative knowledge? So let us first of all discuss what is declarative knowledge. So declarative knowledge is something where you are declaring the knowledge, but you are not indicating any control information how that knowledge is going to be represented, manipulated, how you are going to process that knowledge. Those rules, those procedures have not been added. So only declarations of knowledge will be available. So if we see it syntactically, it is like knowledge is specified, but the use is not given. How you are going to use it, it is not specified. Need a program that specifies what is to be done with the knowledge and how it is going to be processed. For example, logical assertions and resolution theorem proving. Now, what happens in this case? We do have facts. We represent them in the term of predicates. We also represent that in terms of closed form. We apply resolution, but we are just declaring the things. We are just declaring the knowledge, and we are not focusing on specifying the procedure that or specifying the rule how this knowledge is going to be processed. Okay, so that is called declarative knowledge representation. Now, what is a procedural knowledge representation? So, in procedural knowledge representation, additional with the knowledge, what we have is called control information. That is, we have rules and procedures added that indicates us how we are going to utilize, how we are going to use this knowledge. So the control information that is necessary to use the knowledge is embedded inside knowledge itself. So knowledge is not just facts included, but along with the fact, it also has rules that specifies how these facts are going to be manipulated and new information is going to be generated. So in declarative knowledge, you only have facts, while in procedural knowledge, you have facts as well as rules. Okay. So need an interpreter that follows the instructions given in the knowledge. The real difference between the declarative and the procedural view of knowledge lies where the control information is there. Means declarative knowledge don't have any control information inherently embedded, and hence additionally control information should be added. But in case of procedural knowledge representation, it itself contains facts, that is knowledge also, and knowledge itself embeds the controlling information. Okay, and by controlling information, what we mean the rules. So if we compare procedural knowledge and declarative knowledge, then in procedural knowledge, knowledge about how to do something, that is to determine if Peter or Robert is older, first find their ages. Okay, while in declarative knowledge, knowledge about that something is true or false. A car has 4 tires. Peter is older than Robert. Means here you are having only facts. While in procedural knowledge, you are processing the facts as well. In procedural knowledge, the focus is on tasks that must be performed to reach a particular objective or goal. Okay. While in declarative knowledge, it refers to representations or objects and events and knowledge about facts and relationships. In procedural knowledge, the examples are procedures, rules, strategies, agendas, modules, etc. While in case of declarative knowledge, you have concepts, objects, facts, propositions, assertions, semantic nets, logic, and descriptive models. So the major difference we found between procedural and declarative knowledge is the control information. Control information is inherently embedded inside knowledge when we are talking about procedural knowledge representation, but control information need to be extra added when we are talking about declarative knowledge representation. Okay, now what we are going to discuss next, example of procedural versus declarative knowledge representation. So let us see that. Suppose we have written certain, now see, when we are discussing about procedural and declarative knowledge representation, let us discuss that in terms of prologue programs, so you can understand it more appropriately. So let us take example where we have declared certain facts and those facts have been represented in prologue like structure. So You can see over here I have written something like, or let us say, just understand that we have represented the facts in form of predicates. Prologue will be discussing when we'll be discussing about the logic programming, not in case of procedural or declarative. So forget that. Right now we are just writing facts in form of predicates. So the first fact is man is Marcus is man, Caesar is man, Cleopatra is man, person. So they have been written like man Marcus, man Caesar, person Cleopatra. Okay. Now see, consider this symbol as for all, and this is implication. Okay, which is not visible right now because of certain issues with the reader. So for all x, man x implies person x. Man x implies person x. Means if x is man, then x is person as well. Now if you will be asking a question, you will be raising a query like person x question mark. Then what all value x can have? Okay, imagine instead of x if you had y, then what all value y is going to have? So it will start matching the value of y from the first statement, man y. So it will be like if the value of y is Marcus, then Marcus will be person also. So y is equal to Marcus. The second value is y is equal to Caesar. And the third value is y is equal to Cleopatra directly, because person Cleopatra is directly available. Okay, fine. So coming to next. Now, because there is no more than one value that satisfies the predicate, but only one value is needed, the answer depends on order in which the assertions are examined. So what happens in case of declarative assertion, and what happens with in the case of procedural assertions? So in declarative assertions, when you ask a question like person X, it is going to directly search for a fact person X available, and if it is not available, it will give false. In our case, person Cleopatra is available, and hence it will return the value of X as Cleopatra. It is not checking this man Marcus, man Caesar in sequence and then reach to person Cleopatra. Are you getting this? Because this control information won't be there. It will be additionally added. So the core information you have are the facts only. But when we are talking about procedural knowledge representation, then the answer is going to be the first, that is Marcus, X equal to Marcus. And further, if you evaluate, then you will get Caesar and Cleopatra also. Why in procedural knowledge representation you will get the value of X as Marcus? Because it will evaluate this. For person X, it will try examining from first line to the last line in sequence. So the first value which is going to match is man Marcus, and hence the value of X that is going to return is Marcus, not Cleopatra. So do you get the difference between procedural and declarative knowledge? In declarative knowledge, this rule is additionally added. The base information are these three lines only, and hence when you ask person X, it will be focusing on the predicate person only, not on this rule. While in case of procedural knowledge representation, the knowledge encompasses, it embeds the controlling information, and hence when you ask person X, it is going to access from the first line, and hence man Marcus. So man Marcus implies person Marcus, and hence the value of X you are going to get is Marcus. So that is the basic difference with example we can see with procedural and declarative knowledge. Okay, so that is what I have been explained over here, logic programming. So that was about declarative and procedural knowledge representation. So that is about how we represent facts in the form of predicates. Now we are going to discuss how we are going to represent them with the help of logic programming. So when I say logic programming, in that case what we are talking about is predicates. Okay, so talking about predicates, sorry, when we say logic programming, what we are talking about is we are talking about Prolog. Okay, so what happens in case of Prolog? So logic programming is the programming language paradigm in which the assertions are viewed as programs. So Prolog program is described as the series of logical assertions, each of which has a horn clause. Okay, so Prolog program is equal to number of horn clauses. Now what is a horn clause? Disjunction of literals, of which at most one is a positive literal. So we say at most one. So minimum one should be a positive literal available over there. Okay, at most, sorry, at most, not minimum, but at most, maximum. So one clause should be the positive clause. So we see over here the examples of horn clause P, not P or Q, and P implies Q are horn clauses. So Prolog program is decidable. Now what is the control structure? Prolog interpreter, backward reasoning. So how Prolog works? Prolog works on the basis of backward reasoning and backtracking. Okay, backtracking also with depth first scenario. It is not breadth first, but depth first scenario. Okay, so what is backtracking over here? So in Prolog, let us see with examples, so it will become more clear what is backtracking. In Prolog program, what happens when multiple solutions are possible? It is going to access all possible solutions for the same problem. Okay, so that backtracks to all solutions even after one solution is found. So Prolog basically works on backward reasoning and depth first backtracking. Okay, so let us see few examples. So these are the logic. These are the facts written in the form of predicates, and this is a Prolog program for the same. So here it is like for all x, pat x, and this is and symbol, and small x implies apartment pat x. So if you have to write this in the form of Prolog program, how you are going then how you are going to write? That is the question. Okay, so apart here, what you are saying that if x is a pat and x is small also, then x can live in apartment as an apartment pat. So see how you are going to convert the predicates in term of Prolog. As we know already, when you convert predicates in the form of Prolog rules, it goes in reverse. Means what you are going to do is apartment pat x implies, see, apartment pat x is, if you consider that as a head of the rule, it is true only if. So see, implication which is on the result body which is on right side, it is now going to be the head of the rule over here in Prolog. Are you getting the difference? Because Prolog works different ways. In implication, what we are showing, if this is true and this is true, then implies this is going to happen. But in rule, what we say, the left side of the rule that is true means the right side is going to satisfy as well. So this first line will be written like apartment x is true if and only if pat x means x is a pat, and means comma, x is small also, so small x, that's it. Are you getting this? So this is the first line equivalent to this. The second line is for all x, cat x or dog x implies pat x. Means either if the x is cat or x is dog, then x is going to be pet. Okay, so how we are going to write this? So that can be written like, see, there are, when you write or, either you can use semicolon as the operator, or that should be written separately in Prolog. Separate predicate should be written. So as we go in reverse, the whatever you have on right side of implication, that should be the head of the rule. So pat x implies, pat x is true if the first possibility is cat x. So pat x, the body will be cat x. And the second possibility is return predicate once again as it is, or pat x is true if dog x. What is the third statement? For all x, poodle x and dog x and small x, it implies poodle fluffy. Okay, so how we are going to write that? So as they are ends, oh sorry, it is not implies, it is and operation everywhere. So how we are going to write that? As they are and operator, they should be written like separate predicate. Everything should be written like separate predicate. So how we will be writing that? That poodle x, sorry, it is like poodle x implies dog x and small x and poodle fluffy. So it will be like dog x dog x is true if and only if it is poodle x, small x is true if and only if it is poodle x. Okay, and poodle fluffy, this is the separate predicate that we have taken. So this is how we convert the facts in form of Prolog program, equivalent Prolog programs. Okay, fine. So we'll move ahead. Okay, now Prolog versus logic means we write the fact in terms of Prolog statement, or we write them in the form of predicates. Okay, how we represent that? So quantification is provided implicitly by the way of variables are interpreted. So in case of Prolog, the variables are written in capital case letter, constants are written in the small case letters. There is an implicit symbol and which is represented in the form of comma, and there is no operator for or, and we are going to write predicate multiple number of times for asserting or. Disjunction must be represented by alternative statements. P implies Q should be written in Prolog as Q as the head of the body, then P. So if Q is true, then P is going to happen, right? So this is how we execute that. So this represents how logic is going to be represented in terms of predicate, a Prolog program. Let us discuss a bit about more about logic programming, that is Prolog. So logical negation cannot be represented explicitly in pure Prolog. Example, for all x, dog x imply is cat x. Okay, so is not cat x. So what you have to use over here is negation as failure. So cat Fluffy, it is false because unable to prove Fluffy is a cat. Negation as failure requires closed word assumption. Now there are two things that we are going to discuss as we'll be discussing this in Prolog in detail: failure and cut and fail. So closed word assumption and open word assumption. So this is what we'll be discussing when we'll be discussing Prolog. So closed word assumption states that all relevant true assertions are contained in our knowledge base, or whatever is not available is false. In simple words, in closed word assumption, we indicate that we assume that whatever knowledge we require, whatever facts we require, they are by default added. Everything is contained, and whatever is not present, then that is not in existence, and hence it should be returned as false. So that is called closed word assumption. What is negation? Negation means you need to represent something is explicitly false only. So when you want to represent that as false by default, then negation should be used. Okay, that is fail should be used. Now forward versus backward chaining. Okay, now what is forward chaining and what is backward chaining? So as we already know, sorry, forward versus backward reasoning. We already know what is forward reasoning and what is backward reasoning. Please pardon the content. This PPT is not made by me. I have just used one which is available because the content was good. So reason backward from the goal state. So in backward reasoning, what happens? You already have a goal and you start from that goal. You keep on supporting the different facts you have, and with the support of fact, you try to prove that goal is true. Begin building a tree of move sequence that might be solution by stating with the goal configurations at the root of the tree. Generate the next level of the tree by finding out all the rules whose right side matches with the root node. So in simple word, what we discuss, what is backward reasoning? In backward reasoning, we'll start from the goal state. We will keep on supporting our goal state with the facts which are readily available, and we'll try to prove our goal state is true. What happens in case of forward reasoning? In forward reasoning, we start from the facts and we keep on substituting different facts, and we try to end up to our goal state. So it is like from facts to goal will be moving. Okay, that is called forward reasoning. That is what I have been explained over here. Forward versus backward reasoning. So forward reasoning is from the start state, means from the root you will go to the leaf nodes, while in case of backward reasoning, from goal states to the start state, means you will start from the leaf nodes and you will try reaching to the goal, sorry, to the root. Okay, so that is how forward reasoning and backward reasoning works. So reason forward from the initial states, begin building a tree of move sequences that might be the solution by starting with the initial configuration at the root of the tree. So we'll start with the root. Generate the next level of the move possible from the tree and try to reach to the goal state. So reason backward from the goal state, begin building a tree of move sequences that might be solution by stating the goal configuration. So here we start from the root, here we start from the goal configuration that is at the leaf available. So that is the basic difference between the forward reasoning and backward reasoning. So whether we should go for forward reasoning or whether we should go for backward reasoning, what should be the case? So the answer is very simple. It depends on these four features. So which features? So move from smaller set of these features will decide whether forward reasoning should be used or backward reasoning should be used. The first one says move from the smaller, always try to move from smaller set of states to the larger set of states. Okay, so you always try that you are going from smaller state to larger number of states. Proceed in the direction with the lower branching factor. The direction in which means if from root to leaf nodes the branching factor is lower, then you should go in forward reasoning. But if from leaf nodes to root the branching factor is lesser, then you should go with backward reasoning. Proceed in the direction that corresponds more closely with the way of user will think. Also, you need to keep track of how you are going to justify to user. So your process should be justifiable or understandable by the user. So the way user will understand the solution, that way you should proceed. So if user is going to understand the particular question in backward way, then backward reasoning should be used, or forward way, then forward reasoning should be used. Proceed in the direction that corresponds more closely with the way the problem solving episodes will be triggered. So how your problem is going to be solved, that also plays important role in deciding whether the forward or backward reasoning should be used. Okay, so forward rules to encode knowledge about how to respond to particular certain inputs. In backward rules, encode the knowledge about how to achieve the particular goal. Now, knowledge representation, which uses rules. So what kind of rules can be used for knowledge representation, what that we are going to discuss. So if then, else rules, event, condition, actions, applications. Let us see the examples, and we'll see how actually rules are going to be triggered or executed in different possible cases. So examples are, there are three facts given over here, which we are going to write in terms of rule appropriately. So first is, if flammable liquid was spilled, call the fire department. Second says, if the pH of the spill is less than 6, then the spill material is an acid. If the spill material is an acid, then the spill material, like vinegar, the spill material is acetic acid. Dash are used to represent rules. So let us see that how we are going to write. Okay, so how we are going to write the rules, that process goes like this. We will have facts, and then what we are going to do, we are going to have rules over here. Now we will try to match the facts with the rules, and then we'll be executing those rules, and we'll get again facts, again certain facts available, or new facts created, and again we will try to match with the further rules, and so on. Okay, so this is how we are going to proceed. So to be very specific, in the facts we are having the different facts we have already discussed, like a flammable liquid was spilled, the pH of the spill is less than 6, spill smells like vinegar, the spill material is acidic. So these are the facts available. Now what is the rule which we have discussed, that we are going to write here? So if the pH of the spill is less than 6, the spill material is acidic. So what we are going to do, what all facts are applicable, that we are going to match with this rule, and whatever result we'll get, that we are going to add over here. So new fact is going to be added over here. Whenever this rule will be executed, a fact will be generated, and that will be added in the fact stage. So what happens in case, suppose we have the pH of the material is less than 6 and the spill material is acid, then the match is found, and hence if the spill material is acid and the spill material smells like vinegar, the spill material is acidic acidic acid. So that acidic acid fact is going to be added over here. Okay, so what we exactly do over here, we have facts, it is matched over here, and then if suppose all of three facts are present, then it is going to match it over here with the rule. If a flammable liquid was spilled, call the fire department. So as it is exactly matching with these facts, it will execute a particular action, and that action is call the fire department. Fire department is called. Okay, how inference chain for inferring the spill material, how you are going to infer something from the facts available. The pH of the spill is less than 6, the spill material is an acidic, also spill material smells like vinegar, and what is it is going to infer, after what new information you are going to receive out of it, the spill material is an acidic acid. Okay, so this is called inferring new knowledge out of whatever present knowledge is there. Fine. Okay. Now again, what we are discussing over here is example of forward chaining. So how you are going to have forward chaining, these are the facts which are available, and these are the rules which you have. So facts are matched, it is forward chaining. So a particular fact is matched with the rule, okay, A implies D, so it will go ahead, it will match D. D implies, so here it will see C and D, that implies F. Okay, that is not available, so it will go over here. B and F, so B and F implies Z, so Z is the answer that you are going to get, and hence Z is going to be executed. So it is like from fact you will keep on moving ahead and ahead, keep on executing and try to reach to goal state. So it is like from A to, you got to D, you also have additionally C. So with D and C you got F. From F and B you got Z. So that way goes the forward chaining. This is the first fact out of which you infer something. Two additional facts you have used to get the third inference. Again 2 facts, and that way you reach to goal state. So these are the facts which are supporting this goal. But if you need to understand backward chaining, how backward chaining takes place, you have a goal available. These are the facts, okay, and these are the rules you already have. So how it is going to execute is you will start from here, from the rules, okay, from the goal. So from particular goal you will start matching with the facts. If the fact from the next facts, keep on trying the facts whether it is matching or not, and once the facts are matched, you are proving that this goal is true. So different combination of facts are used for supporting the goal that we have. That is called backward chaining. What is exactly matching in our case? Okay, what is exactly matching in our case? So if we observe matching over here, then how to extract from the entire collection of rules that can be applied to a given point? Matching between current state and the precondition of the rules. So what you are going to do over here is match between the current state and the precondition of the rule. Indexing. What is indexing? So one way to select applicable rule is to do a simple search through all the rules, comparing each one's preconditions to the current state and extracting all the ones that match. But there are two problems with the simple solution. It will be necessary to use a large number of rules. Scanning through all of them at every step of search would be hopelessly inefficient. So in indexing, what you are going to do is a long queue of facts you have, a larger database of facts you have, and what you are going to do is whatever goal you need to match, you are going to match that one by one at a time. So that you are going to do over here in indexing. So what is indexing? A large number of rules are there. It is too slow because out of all the rules, you have to find out a particular rule which matches with the goal. Use the current state as the index into rule and select the matching ones immediately. Okay. Now, gains efficiency from 3 major sources. The temporal nature of data. Rules usually do not alter the state of description radically. Instead, a rule will add 1 or 2 elements or delete 1 or 2 elements, but the state remains the same. RET maintain a network of rule conditions, and it uses changes in the state description to determine which new rules might be applied. Okay, so structural similarity in the rules. One rule concludes jaguar X if mammal X, feline X, and carnivorous X and has spots X. Another rule concludes tiger X and is identical to the first rule except the response has spot with the has stripes. If 2 rules are matched independently, a lot of work is repeated unnecessarily. So RET stores rules so that they share structure in memory, sets the conditions that appear several number of times. So it is going to save the efforts and save this space also. So persistence of variable binding consistency. While all the individual preconditions of the rule might be met, there may be variable binding conflicts that prevent the rule from pairing. Son Mary, Joe and son Bill, Bob. The individual preconditions of the rule can be matched. Son X, Y and son Y, Z implies grandparent X, Z. Okay. So Y is common between X and Z. Can be matched, but not in a manner that satisfies the constraint imposed by the variable Y. So in this case, Joe is a son of Mary and Bob is son of Bill, but you cannot employ over here grandparent relationship. Okay, approximate matching. Matching also involves approximate matching. Rules should be applied if their preconditions approximately match the current situation. Example, a speech understanding program. Rules, a description of physical waveform to the phones. Physical signal. Differences in a way individuals speak results background knowledge. Now let us see the example of matching over here with the help of Eliza. So when a person says man are all alike, Eliza will ask in what way? So person may reply like they are always bugging us about something or the other thing. So Eliza won't get any keyword out of here to match. So it will ask another random question. Can you think of specific example? So person may say, well, my boyfriend made me come here. Now see over here, boyfriend is the keyword which it is going to pick up along with come here. So it will match this. Matching will take place and Eliza will reply, your boyfriend made you come here. So boyfriend and come, both keywords have been matched over here. So person, he says I am depressed much all of the time. So depressed is the keyword which it is going to match and employ in the next question. So Eliza will ask, I'm sorry to hear that you are depressed. Okay, then the person may say that it's true, I am unhappy. Okay, so again unhappy is the keyword, it is going to match and raise one more question. So Eliza will ask, do you think coming here will help you not to be unhappy? Person may answer, I need some help, that much seems certain. So again help is the keyword, it will match and it will use in the next triggering question. What would it mean to you if you get some help? Person may reply, perhaps I could learn to get along with my brother. So here from the brother, the keyword matches with the family. And the next question Eliza will ask is, tell me more about your family. Okay. So the Eliza has this kind of rule structure, how it is going to match with different keywords. If it is like X, me, Y, then me will be converted to U and it will have X, U, Y. I remember X. So I remember X has the implication as why do you remember X just now? So X will be replaced over here simply whatever is being used here. My family member is Y. For example, my brother is John. Then the question will be who else in your family is John? Okay, X family member Y. So it will ask you that tell me more about your family. Whatever you talk about family member, son, daughter, brother, sister, it will raise interest. I want to know more about your family. So it will ask you tell me more about your family. Okay. For example, my brother is mean to me. Okay. It will be asked like who else in your family is mean to you? Who else in your family is Y? Are you getting this? My brother is Y means the entire statement mean to me. Then it will replace it by who else in your family is Y means mean to you. Me will be converted to you. So this is how matching takes place and Eliza and a similar expert system can be built. We are going to build a small expert system in lab terms. It will be more clear later. Now many times while matching conflict will also take place. So how conflict resolution should take place? The result of the matching process is a list of rules whose like preferences based on the rules, specificity of rules, physical order of the rules, preferences based on the objects, importance of the objects, positions of the object, preferences based on the action. So these preferences should be taken care of whenever we have any kind of conflict arising. Control knowledge, knowledge about which path are most likely to lead quickly to a goal state is often called as search of the control knowledge. Which states are more preferable to others, which rule to apply in a given situation, the order in which the pursuit of sub goals, useful sequence of the rule to apply. So search control knowledge is meta knowledge. There are number of AI systems that represent their control knowledge with rules. Example, SOAR, Prodigy, SOAR. SOAR is the general architecture of building intelligence system. This is the example how the rules have been specified over here. Prodigy is a general purpose problem solving system that incorporates several different learning mechanisms. It can acquire control rules in a number of ways through hand coding by programs, through a static analysis of the domain operators, through looking at the traces of own problem solving behavior. Prodigy learns control rules from its experience, but unlikely SOAR, it learns from its failure also. So at fail, it won't stop, it will learn from the failure also. Prodigy pursues an unfruitful path. It will try to come with an explanation of why that path failed. It will then use that explanation to build control knowledge that will help avoid fruitless search path in the future. So that is going to be very useful. Two issues concerning to control rules. The first issue is called utility problem. As we add more and more control knowledge to a system, the system is able to search more judicially. If there are many control rules, simply matching them all can be very time consuming. The second issue concerns with the complexity of our production system interpreter. So this is how control knowledge should be used. Control knowledge is what is going to manipulate the facts we have. Okay. So that's all about today's lecture. So what we had been discussing today, knowledge representation using rules. Now there is 7 marks question asked most of the times from this unit, theory questions. So you have to understand this very clearly, so that when it is asked in theory, you can write it properly. Though most of the concepts which we discussed today are the concepts we have already covered in prologue, while we had been discussing prologue, or while we had been discussing unit number 4 and 5. This is unit number 6 from the same book. Okay. So that's all for today. In next lecture, we'll be starting the next unit, that is unit number 7. Keep watching. If it is again, there will be certain examples that will be solving in the note on the notepad, and there will be certain theory topic that will be discussing on PPT. So next video may be a hybrid video and composing both. Wherever we require examples, we'll be covering with the help of notepad, and wherever we will require theory, we'll be using the PPTs. Okay. If you get any query or doubt, you may ask whatever query you have. If you don't have any or you may mail me, message me, whatever mode you are comfortable with. Okay. Stay healthy and happy. Thank you for watching.